One curious aspect surrounding Mel Gibson's interest in spiritual battles is how distinctly he portrays unseen conflicts influencing human destiny, a theme subtly present throughout his body of work. Have you ever wondered why humanity, despite all its imperfections and shortcomings, is seemingly the prized possession in an ongoing spiritual struggle? Why would grand cosmic powers find value in beings that consistently stumble and err? The answer lies precisely within this flawed nature. Humanity's imperfections become the perfect canvas upon which redemption unfolds. Gibson emphasizes this idea eloquently, reflecting the biblical narrative in which human vulnerability calls forth divine compassion, thereby creating a profound bond between heaven and earth. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. Mel Gibson articulates clearly how this eternal cosmic confrontation shapes his faith and artistic expression. His conviction that spiritual realms engage actively with humanity has significantly shaped not only his worldview, but his artistic decisions as well. His films often embody the tension between frail human nature and transcendent spiritual truths. For example, when he shows Christ's love, he shows both how flawed people are and how much was given to save them. His introspective thoughts hit home strongly, highlighting how important people are to spiritual relations. Gibson perceives humans not merely as passive spectators, but active participants whose moral choices contribute directly to this ongoing celestial tension. Through his cinematic storytelling, audiences gain insight into how pivotal human decisions become, affecting not only earthly realities but also transcendent outcomes. For Gibson, the significance of human existence and its entanglement in spiritual struggles directly informs the way he creates art. He carefully constructs scenes depicting humanity's critical role in divine narratives, communicating visually what theology expounds doctrinally. Films such as The Passion of the Christ resonate powerfully because they unmask this dual nature of human vulnerability and divine purpose. Furthermore, Gibson's strong stance and continuous reflection on spiritual warfare underscore his belief in the unique and indispensable role humanity plays. His work strongly argues that each person can have a huge spiritual effect on the bigger story of the universe, even though people are weak, or maybe even because of their weakness. Mel adjusted himself comfortably in his seat, carefully selecting words as he navigated through the contentious waters of filmmaking and spirituality. He recounted vividly how, after announcing his ambitious project about the final hours of Christ, the doors of Hollywood quickly closed around him. Meetings scheduled weeks in advance were abruptly cancelled, and longtime collaborators suddenly distanced themselves, wary of associating with a story deemed too religiously charged or controversial. We all have faced times when doors suddenly close, leaving us uncertain or doubting our purpose. When opportunities vanish without explanation, clarity and guidance become essential to understanding our next step. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. Despite those early setbacks, the filmmaker persisted, believing the film was necessary, essential even. Its graphic portrayal was intentional, he clarified, a means to authentically represent the intensity of Christ's sacrifice. He explained that initially, many studios laughed at the very idea, believing audiences would reject an unapologetically spiritual narrative. Yet, the filmmaker pressed forward, funding the film himself, determined to portray events exactly as he envisioned, free from corporate interference. He described the subtle hostility in the industry, emphasizing how secular circles tend to selectively reject narratives rooted in Christianity, labeling them outdated or offensive, while simultaneously welcoming stories inspired by other traditions or belief systems. Even respected industry insiders privately advised him against proceeding, suggesting the risk to his career would outweigh any potential reward. Nonetheless, the film defied all predictions upon its release in 2004. Audiences worldwide responded overwhelmingly, flocking to theaters in numbers far exceeding industry expectations. The success was undeniable. It earned over $600 million worldwide, becoming one of the most financially successful independent films in history. Yet, despite commercial triumph, recognition in Hollywood circles remained elusive. The film received limited acknowledgement during awards season, signaling the industry's discomfort with its explicitly religious themes. Reflecting on the impact of his work, he underscored that authentic spirituality challenges conventional thinking because it confronts humanity's imperfections directly, without compromise. Portraying an unfiltered account of humanity's flaws and redemption inevitably stirred controversy because it held society accountable for collective failings. Hollywood's unease, he suggested, lay precisely in confronting truths about human nature that many preferred to ignore. Truths he believed essential for genuine understanding and growth. The filmmaker's project on Christ wasn't the only time Hollywood had a rough time with Christianity. It happened all the time when faith met popular cinema. Within an industry often praised for openness and diversity, certain spiritual stories frequently sparked unease, especially those aligned with traditional Christian narratives. The subtle paradox of an industry claiming progressive values yet hesitant to embrace stories rooted in Christian spirituality became starkly apparent. Multiple actors and directors had quietly shared similar frustrations, often behind closed doors. Jim Caviezel's powerful performance as Jesus was praised by audiences all over the world, but he had a hard time finding big parts after that. Despite obvious talent, Hollywood viewed him as overly identified with religious symbolism, sidelining him from mainstream projects. His experience wasn't isolated. Actors openly expressing devotion often encountered subtle marginalization, making faith a career hazard rather than a celebrated facet of identity. This reluctance stemmed partly from misunderstandings about Christianity, viewing it through a distorted lens, associating the religion with historical errors or political issues rather than its spiritual essence. Some industry insiders privately admitted discomfort with openly Christian content, interpreting it as divisive or unnecessarily controversial. Yet, paradoxically, Hollywood eagerly embraced spiritual themes from other traditions, celebrating them as progressive and culturally enriching. This selective openness underscored a broader tension. Stories emphasizing personal accountability, sin, redemption, and the divine often challenged Hollywood's comfort zones. While themes of redemption resonated universally, explicitly linking these to Christ's message appeared problematic. It became clear that industry acceptance often hinged on diluting the spiritual core, reducing it to vague symbolism rather than sincere exploration of belief. Just as clarity emerges from understanding these struggles, a helpful resource awaits you. A thoughtful ebook currently offered as a gift, though available copies are limited. Interestingly, when the conversation shifted to discussing ethical failings within the church hierarchy, Hollywood found its voice again, comfortably spotlighting scandals involving priests or Vatican corruption. The film industry readily produced works highlighting institutional flaws, perhaps because criticizing human institutions felt safer than exploring powerful spiritual truths. Yet, authentically depicting positive expressions of Christian spirituality remained rare, almost taboo, revealing an underlying bias difficult to ignore. The filmmaker highlighted that his experiences had opened his eyes to Hollywood's cautious relationship with faith-based storytelling. Even though they were hard, these problems only drove him more, strengthening his belief that strong, emotionally true stories could really connect with people and change them, even though the business didn't want to. The complexities surrounding the Vatican and its historical shifts in direction provided fertile ground for critical examination. A significant event that sparked widespread debate was the Second Vatican Council, initiated under Pope John XXIII in October 1962 and concluded in December 1965. Designed to modernize the Church and foster dialogue with contemporary culture, its outcomes divided opinion sharply, altering traditions that had remained virtually unchanged for centuries. Intriguingly, during the 1958 papal conclave, an unprecedented irregularity occurred. White smoke, traditionally signaling the election of a new pope, rose briefly from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. Crowds rejoiced enthusiastically at St. Peter's Square. But about 30 minutes later, there was a lot of confusion when black smoke quickly emerged, which went against what had been said. This strange event led to ideas that there was a secret battle going on inside the Vatican between strong groups that wanted to put their own candidate on Peter's throne. Ultimately, Angelo Roncalli emerged from this contested conclave as Pope John XXIII. The significance of his chosen papal name raised additional suspicion. John XXIII was the name previously held by an antipope in the 15th century. Historically unprecedented, this choice stirred speculation about hidden motives behind his selection. Scholars and observers wondered whether this hinted at a silent statement, a subtle acknowledgement of deeper internal conflicts within the Church. Subsequently, Pope John XXIII called the council in 1962, initiating dramatic transformations in liturgy, rituals, and theological stances. These shifts included allowing Mass in local languages rather than strictly in Latin, modernizing church practices, and promoting dialogue with other faiths. For traditionalists, however, these reforms signaled a troubling break from centuries-old consistency, causing a division still palpable today. Critics argued that the council unintentionally weakened core traditions, opening doors to confusion and doctrinal fragmentation. Debates intensified around allegations of institutional corruption, power dynamics, and ideological battles, some even suggesting deliberate infiltration to reshape the Church's identity. Voices emerged, like those aligned with Bishop Marcel Lefebvre, openly challenging Vatican II reforms, asserting that genuine Catholicism had been quietly sidelined, replaced by an entirely new, unfamiliar doctrine. Thus, the Vatican became a battleground not just of theology, but of competing narratives, each faction convinced they represented genuine Christianity, each believing itself guardian of the true faith amid shifting tides. In moments when truth seems challenging, gentle guidance can illuminate your path. Consider downloading our complimentary ebook soon, as supplies are quickly diminishing. Amid controversies surrounding recent actions by Pope Francis, one incident sparked particular unrest within conservative Catholic circles: the inclusion of Pachamama statues during a Vatican synod in October 2019. This figure, an indigenous deity revered across Andean cultures in South America, was brought into the Vatican gardens and later displayed inside churches, acts viewed by many as outright betrayal of foundational Christian principles. Images circulated quickly, depicting religious officials participating in rituals around these statues, raising urgent concerns over idolatrous implications. Critics argued vehemently that incorporating a deity originating from ancient indigenous spirituality directly contradicted fundamental Christian teachings. Prominent theologians and church commentators branded this act as outright apostasy, a deliberate turning away from core doctrine that prohibits idol worship. For many faithful, the spectacle of Catholic clergy engaging in ceremonies venerating Pachamama signaled a troubling departure from historical orthodoxy, leading some groups to publicly demand clarification or even repentance from Vatican authorities. The Vatican initially attempted to defuse tensions by explaining the statues merely represented symbols of life and fertility, rather than objects of actual worship. Some Christians were worried that including Pachamama meant there was a greater religious compromise, but the answers did not calm them down. Controversy intensified when several of the wooden figures were removed by outraged individuals and tossed into Rome's Tiber River, a symbolic gesture widely applauded by traditionalists as defending the integrity of Catholicism. The incident raised broader questions about religious pluralism within Catholic doctrine, igniting heated discussions across global Catholic communities. Observers noted Pope Francis's consistent messages promoting interreligious dialogue and inclusion, yet argued that embracing symbols clearly tied to pre-Christian religious traditions crossed critical boundaries. Skeptics questioned whether the Vatican's drive toward openness was inadvertently undermining its core spiritual identity, shifting the Church's purpose from guardian of sacred truths toward a vehicle of universal acceptance without discernment. This theological friction echoed earlier concerns voiced by traditional Catholics about perceived doctrinal dilution since Vatican II. However, Francis defended the event as an attempt at fostering dialogue and mutual respect among diverse cultures. Despite his explanations, many critics remained unconvinced, sensing ideological currents reshaping Catholic spirituality in directions incompatible with foundational beliefs. Such debates, intensifying in recent years, have highlighted enduring tensions within the Church, tensions between inclusive engagement with the wider world and steadfast adherence to established Christian doctrine. The filmmaker's newest project aimed directly at portraying the resurrection in a manner rarely attempted before, bridging historical authenticity with spiritual clarity. He was honest when he said that catching this important event on film was very hard because it had to show something both magical and real at the same time. The script, crafted meticulously over nearly 7 years alongside his collaborator Randall Wallace, consciously avoided a straightforward narrative, preferring instead to interweave Christ's return with cosmic battles beyond human perception. Drawing parallels between spiritual warfare and earthly history, the narrative would begin dramatically, not in Jerusalem but in realms unseen, exploring the rebellion and subsequent expulsion of fallen angels led by Lucifer. The purpose of framing the resurrection against this cosmic backdrop was to illustrate clearly that Christ's rising from the dead wasn't merely a historical anomaly, but a definitive victory in an eternal conflict. It was this larger perspective, the filmmaker believed, that truly conveyed why such an event holds immense spiritual significance beyond mere doctrine or faith alone. As these powerful insights unfold, feel free to explore further through the ebook we've prepared, but keep in mind, only a few copies remain available for download. He emphasized careful attention to historical sources and thorough scholarship during production. Working closely alongside Randall Wallace, The scriptwriting process spanned nearly 7 meticulous years, incorporating exhaustive research, ancient writings, theological consultations, and various historical accounts beyond biblical texts. Central to their approach was the careful handling of both scriptural accuracy and historical plausibility, balancing respect for faith traditions with an openness to scholarly interpretations of the era. In addressing doubts and skepticisms that often surround the resurrection, he emphasized the critical distinction between blind faith and informed belief. The script didn't rely solely on miracles for validation. Instead, it delved into the documented experiences and testimonies from multiple historical figures who witnessed and subsequently endured martyrdom, rather than renounce what they claimed to have seen. Such testimonies provided compelling arguments against dismissal of the resurrection as mere legend, reinforcing the authenticity of the apostles' accounts through their willingness to die rather than recant their testimony. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. He also hinted at incorporating recent scientific discussions surrounding mysterious artifacts linked to Christ's burial, such as the enigmatic Shroud of Turin, emphasizing ongoing research that continues to perplex scientists. New studies showed strange picture patterns that scientists can't explain. These patterns may have been caused by intense bursts of energy. The director saw these findings as modern-day echoes of ancient truth, using real-life proof that science itself has trouble explaining to back his story.